This podcast is brought to you by People's Food Co-op, a community-owned grocery store in downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin and Rochester, Minnesota, that promotes local farmers and producers through an emphasis on fresh, healthy, sustainable food. Anyone can shop. Everyone is welcome. For more information, visit them online at pfc.coop. This podcast is also brought to you by Trempealeau County Tourism. Whether your idea of fun is bicycling, hiking, or canoeing, afterwards head into the heart of one of their welcoming communities to experience historic architecture, independent shops, and locally owned dining establishments. Visit Trempealeau County Tourism online. Artspire is back with a full weekend of art at the Pump House Regional Art Center. Enjoy live music from Cloud Cult, Bill Miller, and B2 Winds, plus a fine art fair, interactive art projects, and visual and performing arts. June 10th through 11th. Learn more at artspire.thepumphouse.org. We checked in with the local woodblock printer Shoua Yang. We talk about early beginnings, getting into art, and how his work combines his background, cultural folklores, mythologies, and the Hmong diaspora with modern times. Check out his work at Artspire's Art Fair and Sale on Saturday, June 11th. You can find more conversations, food reviews, live music, and events on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is La Crosse Local.
My name is Shoua Yang. I was actually born in a refugee camp in Thailand. And then I came to the United States. I came to La Crosse, Wisconsin in 1992. I always grew up loving art. I was very fortunate enough that growing up, I was put in a lot of art programs to help me with my full potential and artistic skills. So I always grew up around art. During my middle school, I didn't attend a regular middle school. I actually went to a museum partnership school where we were connected with the local art museum. So even though we're taking regular classes, we have extra art classes included into our schedule. So I was always constantly around art at an early age and up until now. So that's kind of my story, how I got into art.
What kind of turned you onto the wood cutting component, the relief sort of components of your stuff?
Yeah, so when I was doing my undergrad, I tried a few different mediums and nothing really stuck to me until I met my professor. His name is Joseph Velasquez, and he was my professor at the time, and he later became my mentor, and he kind of introduced me to this process of relief printmaking. It's really unique to me in a way, especially the whole entire process, from the process where you make a design, a drawing, and then that gets transferred over into a board, and then it gets carved out and then it gets printed. The whole entire process, the execution, the printing, everything is. I fell in love with the idea of the multiples, the idea of having an original, but being able to make multiple copies of it and having it available, and not just having one piece. And I think that's what really draws me into it.
Kind of taking a peek at your work over the last couple of days. You also reference folklore, mythologies. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Just kind of your background, but you also have a kind of like a pop art sort of influence. That's what I see. And in some ways, it's like there's a mix. Who are some of your influences or inspirations for your work?
Oh, yes, definitely. So my aesthetic is I include a lot of my heritage and my background to my art. And at the same time, growing up as a 90s kid, I'm a big fan of pop culture too. So I try to blend the two. I try to unite the two and reach out to the audience. I know that a lot of my audience, they don't know much about my heritage, but especially the Hmong heritage. It's very kept close and within my community. So I wanted a way to be able to reach out and to tell a little bit of my heritage and mythologies and all the rich culture from my heritage. But at the same time, how do you marinate that in a way where it's approachable to the public who are not familiar with my culture? And I find that the best way is through pop culture. Everybody can relate to pop culture. The idea of the gaming culture, cartoons, movies, comic books, and be able to marinate that into my culture gives it a little bit of. It makes it easier for those that aren't familiar with my heritage for them to actually consume it or actually approach it in a way. And a lot of my inspiration most of it just comes from my heritage and a lot of the stories and folklores and mythology that I grew up with, and also with a lot of the things that's popular today with pop culture of itself.
Looking at your work, and you kind of tell me the background with it, how it kind of melds together. What is your creative process like when coming up with ideas? Is it something that, it's real quick, or is it something that you work on for quite a while? I'm sure working with wood and relief and stuff like that, you might have some mess ups and have to start over.
Oh, yes. That's a great question. The three parts that have to do with my process is definitely the first and most time consuming part is the conceptualizing part, coming up with the ideas, finding something fresh. And then once I have an idea, I can put it on a board, I can execute it, and I can print it. Those two parts are pretty much just physical labor work. The most important part is to find a concept, and then how do you relate that to the message of what you're sending. So a lot of the time, my concept actually comes from the stories that I've heard, from my culture and from my heritage, and growing up hearing stories from my parents about, even if it's not just mythology, so a lot of things to do with history, the Hmong history of how we came to the United States and the war, how we were involved in the Vietnam War, and then we became refugees, and then we immigrated to the United States. So a lot of those stories, first I would take something, and then I want to include, then after taking that, I want to include something that'll be easier to accept, I guess. When you're telling people these stories, these mythology, sometimes there's a disconnect, and to find that connection, so it's a lot easier. That's definitely one of the most important part in the process making. Once you're able to find that connection and come up with a design or drawing that I'm content that it would be able to send that message, and then I execute that into a board. And for example, there's a story about the journey of my people, how they came from Laos to Thailand and to the United States, the whole entire journey. Sometime when I come up with concept of how to tell the story in a way where it's more relatable to the general audience, I'll put that maybe in the form of a character from a game, or maybe a character from a movie or a book, and recontextualize that in such a way where audience, they can relate to the medium of that character or the style, but at the same time it tells a story of a group of people that have gone through a lot to actually get to where they are today.
Working with this material, I see some of your work here on your Instagram page that people could check out. Some of it's about the size of your hand. Some of those looks like it's a little bit bigger. And you even have from, 6 years or so ago, it looks like you did a large woodcut for a steamroller event. Do you work that large normally, or how big are your pieces usually?
Yeah, my pieces range from, you're right, my pieces range within the wide variety of scales, actually. I do have pieces that are just about 4 to 6 inches, and then some of my biggest pieces are 4 feet to 6 feet. Depending on what kind of story I want to tell, scale makes a big impact in storytelling. The bigger it is, the bigger the impact. And majority of the time, a lot of my prints are usually about just the normal size, are about 11 inches by 17 inches. They're made for prints that people can actually hang in their homes, or they can be printed onto t-shirts and onto clothing. But those pieces, those are rare. It really depends. I own a press, but I don't own a press that big. So as big as the one that can print the 4 feet by 6 feet. So a lot of the time, if I get invited to steamrolling events or into events that actually allow me to produce those pieces, I do make pieces that big too. And a lot of the time, after those pieces are made, once you get printed, the piece just becomes an installation piece. I have them hang up in my rooms or my house, and they just become installation pieces on the wall. So my work do come in a wide variety of scales, yes.
I also see some connections to the storytelling related to American style tattoos in some ways in some of your work. I don't know if that was an influence, but some of these different characters, the octopuses, the skulls, to more of your personal backstory. Is there a connection with that? Do you see a connection with that American style tattoos or no?
Definitely not. That's a great question. That's a question I get asked all the time. So
really,
I get. It's quite funny because when I go out to print in the public, I have a lot of people from different community come up and ask me if I do tattoo work, or if what I'm doing actually for tattoos. And unfortunately, I feel really bad having to reject them, because even though a lot of my work looked like it would be for tattoos, actually I don't really take much inspiration from that. I don't really associate anything with tattoo communities. And talking about that, there is one piece in my work that I did made for a buddy of mine that he wanted a full sleeve on his left arm, and he wanted me to be able to translate a folklore onto a single piece that can actually fit onto his entire arm. And that's the one with the two individuals in the foreground running away from actually a dragon. And he wanted that. And that was actually the only piece in my life that I've ever done for him to actually use it for a whole entire tattoo on his arm. So that's the only one. But it was one of my older works. And after that, I haven't really done anything for it in relating to tattoo. But no, I didn't take in a lot of my inspiration from tattoo, unfortunately. Sorry for that. So
no, I mean, just seeing the similarities in it. So you'll be at the art fair and sale at Artspire Saturday, June 11th. I believe it's 10 to 5. Lots of artists there, lots of music. Do you do a lot of shows like this, or is this your first time, or what's your sort of schedule like for the summer in terms of events?
Yeah, I do a few shows throughout the summer. I wish I could do more, but my schedule is with the summer too. I have a lot of other projects going on too. So there's a few shows I do spread them out throughout the summers. This would be I believe my fourth year coming back, my fourth summer coming back. I absolutely love it. I look forward to it very much, especially seeing all the familiar faces, the returning artists, just coming out to the community. And the past few years, I do have a lot of followers throughout the community that does ask me if I'm coming back, or they're always constantly returning to support me. So it's always nice to see those familiar faces and also new faces as well. The whole pandemic happening in the last 2 years, I'm extremely happy to come out to the community again.
When you're setting up your booth out there, what can people expect from your work? Some of your stuff you have here on Instagram, but what could people walk up and find?
Well, every year I try to introduce something new, try to have work ready. So I don't just constantly having to reuse things that I've probably introduced in the past. I try to bring something fresh and new. And the whole idea of what I'm doing is taking this process that the public usually don't see outside of a classroom and be able to present that in the public and actually seeing this whole process being made in front of public. I think that's the greatest thing. And when you come and see my art, even if you're not purchasing anything, feel free to just ask questions about, what is the art about? What am I doing? Can they see the process? And if you do make a purchase of one of my hand printed t-shirts, you get to see the whole entire process. You get to see the board. Oh. You see the board being inked, you see the t-shirts being prepped, you see the design being printed onto the t-shirt, and you see the whole entire process. So when you actually walk away with a hand printed t-shirt, it's not just a product of itself, but you actually see the whole art process being made in front of you. And I think that's the beauty of what I'm doing is that I don't have anything pre-made other than the prints, but the t-shirts, when you make a purchase, you actually see the whole entire process. So you actually walk away being able to tell anybody who asks you when you wear the t-shirt and they have any questions, you can tell them, I saw this thing being made in front of me, and the whole process. I think that's the great thing about what I'm doing.
That's definitely exciting. I'm gonna stop by and check that out for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's next for you? What are you excited for getting out of the pandemic and things like that? What's coming down the line? Anything to know?
Yeah, a lot of great things happening this summer. I can say things are slowly coming back to normal with the restriction easing, and I look forward to attending more shows again. I haven't been able to do that for the last 2 years. I'm really excited to actually just go out to the different communities, not only the one at Art Inspired, but throughout Wisconsin. Before the pandemic, I traveled throughout Wisconsin for all different sorts of shows, and to be able to return back to those communities, it's one of the greatest things about upcoming summer. So I look forward to that very much. Also, getting back into doing art projects with the community, that's something that I've been looking forward to again, and also workshops, being able to be invited back for shows or for a workshop. These are a lot of stuff that, with the pandemic easing, I can actually go back to just being a part of the community and share my art with everyone.
It sounds like things are picking up for you. If people want to find out more, what's the best avenue for them to go to? I know you have an Instagram page. Is that the best spot, or?
The Instagram page is just for audience to actually see my past work, my collection of work. I constantly update that to put out work from the past and to put out current work and work that will be coming to get everybody excited. But as of right now, I don't really have any sales online. I just focus a lot on shows. And if you do have any questions about what I do or anything, yes, definitely feel free to reach me at ceevtsegpress@gmail.com, which is I think chippress.com. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions regarding my work, or if you're interested in anything. My email is the best way, or Instagram messages will probably be the best way too. So, yep.
Lacrosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at Lacrosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the Lacrosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.